instead of doing what they should have done, which is voted everything down, or at the very least vote on what was proposed, each component was broken down, amendments were voted on during this whole meeting, and then it was very unclear at the end of our first meeting what was even being passed.
Right, because it was a completely different proposal at that point.
Yeah, and so everyone anxiously awaited the next session in which we would be able to give comment, because now we knew the 8-foot and the 8-foot rule had been struck down. We knew that for sure. The 10-foot rule was unclear, and then it was very unclear what was happening in terms of basically everything else too. I mean, what were the other ones that they decided they were going to switch around? The Bell Buoy Park, it wasn't clear whether they were still, which portion of it they were going to move forward with. The public safety hazard.
Do you have the piece of paper that has that definition on it?
I have a copy upstairs. I'll be right back.
No, it's not cited where it is, like what section. Oh no, it's in the definitions section.
It's underlined. It's a new edition.
Yeah,
So
right, it is underlined.
So if it's under definitions, it's a definition that they need up specifically for this proposal.
And then they've refused to acknowledge that they had altered anything at all when they had.
Well, the most disturbing thing is it was up for public comment and then it wasn't.
Okay, so here's the agenda right here. Here's the agenda for the meeting. Number 7, which I have highlighted. You can see it says that number 6, there's going to be executive session, blah, blah, blah. They're going to go and discuss the legal ramifications, and then they're going to reconvene for public comment about what amendments they end up making in the executive session on the proposal. And not only did they strike that from the meeting agenda, but they just didn't allow public comment at all. And there were amendments made to the proposal in between this meeting and the last meeting, which I would think would warrant that public comment be allowed because it's a different proposal now. Yeah, and then they're just changing the agenda on the fly, deciding what the rules are as they go. It just seems very undemocratic and very there's just no respect for process.
Well, it's just the fact that they moved it. It wasn't because there was a mass amount of people going to be sitting up there. So that
basically
they didn't want to
have public comment at all, which they made very clear. But my next question is, why didn't they want to have public comment? It's because they were short on time. Did they feel like they had something better to do, or is it something more complex than that?
Public opinion. I mean, the papers came out and said that we basically support the street artists and not having to register.
Right.
And stood with us, partially because there's so many of us talking about it, and they don't want that to happen again because they want to make their decisions without the, that kind of pressure.
I went up, said, I'd just like to respectfully ask to extend, or to, open up for public comment for the street art issue, and he was like, this is not the time for that. And I was like, well, this is my only chance to ask if you can open it up. And he basically said no. And then and then I said, well, it's on the agenda. And then Cheryl Lehman, what I gathered was that Cheryl Lehman said yes.
Yeah, that there was going to be public comment after they reconvened from.
Yeah,
It
she
seemed
said
like
yes.
they agreed to it.
Yeah, they
afterwards.
agreed to it. It did.
I was
seem
happy.
Like that.
If
I came back down.
I wouldn't
and
have
I was
even stayed
okay.
if they didn't agree to something.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, good. And then, and then they just completely.
So we waited there for another hour.
Yeah,
2 hours.
Yeah. So they said yes, and then everyone stuck around because of that. And then after all that, and it's they keep saying, oh, we don't want to have to sit through an hour and a half of that. We waited through the
2
whole meeting. We waited
It's
2
not our
hours
job.
to
We have
speak.
other things
And it's
to
not
do.
our job, exactly.
We elected you.
Yeah, exactly. This is what they're supposed to be doing. And I just want to say once again, it makes me so mad that they keep saying oh, we don't want this much public comment, but then it's well, if there's that much public comment against it, isn't there something wrong with it? That's what that public comment is all about. did you even listen to anything? Like, I was reading over those minutes from the last meeting, and I'm just like, holy shit, like, reading over the minutes of what people said, like, with everyone bringing up all these good points against registration, and then also reading over in the minutes, like, what the counselors were saying, and what, what's her name, the gray hair lady, I keep forgetting her name.
Trish
The-
McAllister.
Trish McAllister, and, like, she had said that, like, yeah, it's probably not, it's, like, not a good idea. Like, everyone had said it's not a good idea. If anyone read over those minutes, having not been there, they would have been like, oh, well, definitely, they would
Right.
get rid of registration. It's like the
Absolutely.
completely logical thing.
It's because
To do.
Chesapeake has a bone for artists, and it's like, why?
Because it really is because the businesses
the
are.
downtown
It's
district.
totally. It's like Jan Beitzer who lied and said that she was against registration.
Right.
When she is the one, like 2 years ago, that started this whole thing. She's the one who was like at meetings then saying, "Oh, the artist.
What
we need to get rid of
business
the
is she from?
artist." She's
She's
the
from the-
head of the Portland Downtown District, so basically like the head of the organization of all the businesses.
Yeah, and so also Jan Beitzer, what she said just a few minutes later, that inside the council chamber, I guess it wasn't the council chamber, but room 24 in the basement, to you, said that she was totally for registration and all that, and wasn't like, what did she say?
Well, so then this was after. Is this when she was talking to Abbott?
It was
Yeah, that
after
when she was-
after she talked with Abbott, yeah.
Well, then I was just standing there with her, and I was
Mhm.
asking her, like, saying, "Oh, hey, I emailed you," and so we introduced each other, and she was immediately like, didn't want to talk to me after she realized who I was, and I was saying, "Well, I'm just trying to open up conversation so we can talk about like where the issues are, where there's a difference, so that we can know exactly where each side is coming from." She's like, "Oh, it's very public where I'm coming from, blah blah blah." It's like, and I was like, "Well, there's some differences." She's like, "Well, I'm for registering." Or not, no, it's not for, but like,
Oh, she said she wasn't for
she
registration.
wasn't for, but then like, she's like, "But, we gotta do something to, keep track of artists or something." So she
Which would be
basically was saying
registering.
yes, but she said no. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then that was when she bolted in there and screamed at everybody. About, I mean, it is
But that
good
she had 20 businesses lined up to support the
and that the process
proposal.
was not followed.
Yeah.
It was completely not followed from how it was put online, how it was even given to us in an agenda, and
Yeah.
then even what it was being told to us as the meeting was going on. I
Yeah.
mean, she was very offended, just like we were offended by that, and
Right.
really pissed off about the waste of time. So at least we have we know that she agrees on that level, because that on it itself as an issue is a total breach of process and
Totally.
how to run a
Yeah.
meeting.
I think that that's like really quite the takeaway is that like both like our allies and opposition were pissed by the total lack of respect for process that this committee showed.
I actually think I'm going to re-talk to all those emails I have, the whole business list of every single person that signed the petition, and I'm going to say we were disrespected. The street artists, just be like the process was totally fucked up and it's not right,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that we're calling attention to it together because it's not a fair way of going about this issue.
Yeah. The only public comment that they took the entire meeting was
Yeah, they took one.
they took one
It's like it
one
was
thing,
set up
and it was about the
like-
change of the farmers market from 1 hour to another hour.
Yeah,
It's like
one more
of-
hour.
of
It
the
was a joke, yeah.
the least significant thing that they could have possibly had
Like,
on
oh,
the
okay, we
agenda.
can listen to, because they knew that there wasn't going to be much of a comment, and they're
Right.
like, just.
Yeah, how is that even
So
an
what-
issue?
yeah,
Like,
And I'm thinking about this too. Like actually, like throughout the entire process, there's been like a lack of respect for process. Like, do you guys
Yeah.
remember when Jill Doosan just like changed the proposals?
Yeah, that's what I was saying after the first, like that's the theme of this. Is
Yeah.
That, wow, we're really concerned that this is totally not well thought through. And we all give public comment on exactly what's written, and instead of voting on what's written,
They
things are
change it.
changed
Yeah.
Right,
on the
and then
spot,
voted on.
And then voted on, but even the people voting on them didn't know what they were voting on.
The meetings for the task force, it was like one every month, sometimes one every 2 months. So there were like there were maybe like 6 meetings
Yeah.
in all.
And what I love too is that they don't even know. Like they came up with a map for a proposal that got struck down, like the 10-foot rule. They had a map, and then the map didn't even show what the map was supposed to. It showed the map shows like businesses, but it doesn't show the zones
There's
affected
no-
by
exactly,
10
that doesn't
feet from an
even
open
make sense.
business.
Yeah.
It's a
it's-
weakly labeled map too, and it's pathetic.
It's very inaccurate. I can think of several non-food businesses that don't have a
Yeah, it
little
doesn't even make sense.
symbol next to it. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
It
it
doesn't make
shows
any
nothing.
sense at all.
Well, and like, why are they making that map for a proposal that got struck down?
What? No, I don't know what to believe anymore because I feel like even though all of a sudden randomly they struck down the 10-foot rule and the 8-foot rule on
well,
there.
they didn't strike down the 10-foot rule. What they did technically was they
They didn't vote on it.
they didn't vote on it until they got a map, was what they said.
Right.
This time.
Which also, they actually also technically didn't table it. They didn't use the word table at all. They didn't do anything with it. And we have that on film too. We
Yeah.
have this whole thing on film.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like total disregard for procedure.
Okay. After. Okay. So this is.
Well, if they
no,
tabled
no,
it-
they have struck it down. Look, on February blah blah, this committee considered and voted on changes to the city's street artist ordinance and regulations pursuant to recommendations from the Street Artist Task Force. The changes considered included. So the 8-foot rule prohibiting street artists from Bellevue Park, the 10-foot rule, registration, and no posing a public safety hazard. So this is what they considered. Then it says, after extensive public comment and debate, the committee voted in favor of recommending the following changes for a full council vote. And they leave out, they don't say anything about the 8-foot rule or the 10-foot rule. They just say registration, and then they say about the evacuation zone at Bellevue Park, and then they say the
Which was our
No.
idea, by the way.
which is our idea, and then they say the no public safety hazard. They've knocked out the 10-foot and the 8-foot rule, right? That means because these are the three that they're recommending.
Well,
So-
that's what it's supposed to. Like, we'll
But,
find.
then, but what I'm,
we'll
but
find
what I'm
it.
saying, that's what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
like, I don't trust anything that they say because like who does like at the next since they never follow any procedure that's supposed to
These-
happen, they could randomly bring those back.
Yeah.
These are not the correct minutes because that's not what happened. What
No,
happened?
it's
These
not.
aren't minutes.
Wait,
these
wait.
are what's-
That's
No.
a memo.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
What
incorrect.
happened with the 10-foot rule was that they voted it down until they did vote it down until they got a map.
Yeah, that's what they said.
But it
Now
wasn't.
They have them
but,
now.
but so they didn't table it, so they voted it down. So theoretically, it can't come back until next session. Am I correct on that?
No, well, it'll be till the next. Well, the thing is, now that they have the map, now they're going to do another public hearing and they're going to do consideration of the 10-foot rule. Maybe.
But according
We
to
don't
this-
know. I know, but the thing is like we can't like
We
they
get-
they
yeah,
don't
that's what I was
follow
reading.
They're not
any process.
following government processes.
They're not following any process at all.
Is there anywhere written down that says the process of Portland City Council?
That's a really
Well,
good question.
committees, I don't know. I mean, I would think that they would at least follow Robert's Rules of Order. They're following Ed Suslovich's Rules of Disorder.
Because I also think that there's nothing that we can grasp onto, but I'm trying to think offensively about what we should do. Obviously, I think a press release is good that is multiply faceted, where both the processes, first of all, isn't happening, being followed, but then also the fact that like that is actually a completely separate issue from what's happening with the street artists. Because like the process, isn't being followed, and it'd be nice if that was followed, but it goes back to still these things are really fucked up, and if we get too caught up on the following the process, we kind of lose our resolve.
The substance.
The substance
Yeah.
of what's going on here.
That's
The
a good
problem
point.
is it's so hard to figure out what the substance is when you're hitting a moving target.
Yeah,
It's almost like
they're
you
changing what the substance
Yeah,
is from
you
from meeting to meeting.
You start with, this is what we are for, this is what we are against. It's been difficult to continue tracking what we're going to be against. We're like a goalie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Especially
so true.
especially because like when I walked into that meeting and I read the safety rules, immediately I was like, I'm not prepared to defend this. I didn't know this was coming up. Like, and I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anywhere before.
Yeah. No, yeah, those are rules. That definition was something that they just made up
And
Yeah,
in between here and then.
I saw the definition. I was like, well, there's no way that I can follow this. This definition is fucked up. And then my next thought was like, oh, I'll just like ignore that one and not follow the rules on that. But then I was like, wait, the whole point of all this is to like make sure that we have rules that like we are okay with and rules that we can follow. It's like,
Yeah, he's basically shutting down
all
fire
fire performance, fire juggling, like, which I really think that he did that because in the meeting with him,
You mentioned
I
you were a
mentioned
juggler.
fire. I was like, well, yeah, I think my concern with like putting that safety hazard thing in there, like, is that, and oh no, I said that like when he keeps talking about the blacksmith having an open flame, like I kind of like take that personally because of fire juggling and stuff, and then I think he totally put that in there because I didn't agree to the compromise that he wanted. And I think he put that in as like, because he was like mad about the compromise, right? Because you talked to him and he was like,
Well, that's because the reporter went in after everybody was gone.
because I told the reporter.
Yeah, and the reporter said, Councilor Sessiflick, can I talk to you or ask you a question? And he said, well, okay, even though he looked like he wanted to not be there. And she asked very specifically, all the street artists, not all, a street artist out there said that you were lying and then gave the details as to how. And he looked scared and was like, oh God. And then he responded like, oh no, we were just trying to come to a compromise and they didn't want to compromise. And that was his, and then he said that as he was walking out because he was like, I don't want to take any more questions.
That's really funny. He was like, damn, I didn't know they were so organized.
Just all we need to do is have a video of him going, of you saying, but this is different, and him going, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And then show the
the
proposal
two
where it
marked up
shows the
proposals.
amendments that are put in.
I feel like we have so much proof that
Do we
they're
have
just,
those papers from the last meeting?
yeah.
Yeah.
I do, yeah. Also, so thinking offensively, what are the next steps? A press release, it could almost be 2 press releases, one editorial about just the process
Yeah.
of this, of democracy, the state of democracy in the Portland City
We should.
Council committees, and specifically this one that's dealing with such important issues to our society. And then a separate one about the update on the street artist memorandum. And then honestly, I actually almost can't wait. I don't really care what they do in the next committee meeting, because whether they pass things or not, we have so much at the city council level when this comes to a full city council that could just, I mean, it's just gonna, I can't wait until the full city council meeting. I think that's where we really can just tear this apart.
Yeah.
Because they're going to pass something. The whole purpose of the compromise has nothing to do with good policy. It has everything to do with saving face. They're going to pass something.
Yeah.
In our ideal world, all it would be is the Bell Buoy Park thing, but you know that they're going to try to figure something else out. And he would have liked it to be the 8-foot rule. It already got struck down, so it's probably going to be something like registration. Either or, I don't care. They can vote on it. I can't wait until the ACLU comes to the city council
Yeah.
meeting.
I'm so excited.
I can't wait until.
I'm
So
actually.
I honestly, you know what? Let them continue to make fools out of themselves.